So a new state is moving towards actively defying what the Supreme Court said in Bruin, and they're trying to pass an assault weapons ban and also a concealed carry ban. So let's talk about what is now happening. Now real quick before we jump in the video, if you agree that rifle bans and concealed carry bans are clearly a violation of the Second Amendment, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. As I mentioned in the intro, in this video, we're going to be talking about how some politicians in Colorado have gone completely tyrannical and have launched a comprehensive attack on the Second Amendment. Colorado's legislature is actively attempting to pass their own ban on so-called assault weapons, and then also they're trying to enhance their concealed carry restrictions. Essentially, Colorado aims to follow the steps that other states have taken, like New York and California, and those states have moved to actively defy what Supreme Court said in Bruin. And then those states also have in place various bans on so-called assault weapons, essentially just banning the most common types of rifles that are out there. The two bills we're going to be talking about in this video are House Bill 24-1292, which is brought by Representatives Hernandez and Epps. That bill is the ban on so-called assault weapons. And then there's also Senate Bill 24-131, and that one enhances the sensitive locations and those restrictions within Colorado. And that's essentially your concealed carry ban, which is now being pushed in direct defiance to what the Supreme Court said in Bruin. So let's break down these new bills, and then we need to talk about what you need to do and what the community needs to do at large to stop these actions in Colorado. The first bill we're going to be talking about is the proposed ban on so-called assault weapons. This bill defines the term assault weapon and prohibits a person from manufacturing, importing, purchasing, selling, offer to sale, or transferring ownership of a so-called assault weapon. A person in violation of those prohibitions will be charged a first-time penalty of $250,000 and $500,000 for each subsequent violation. So not only is this a ban on the future sale and purchase of the most common rifles in the US, but you buying, selling, or transferring these types of rifles will get you hit with $250,000 worth of a fine on the first, violation, and then $500,000 for any subsequent violation. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to be per firearm or if that's going to be just for per instance. So that's also going to be interesting to see how that develops. This state bill aims to ban the future sale and acquisition of almost all semi-automatic rifles. This bill states expressly that, except as otherwise provided in subsection 2 of this section, a person shall not knowingly manufacture, import, purchase, sell, offer to sale, or transfer ownership of, or knowingly cause the manufacture, import, purchase, sale, offer for sale, or transfer of ownership of a so-called assault weapon. Now, the goal of this language is to cut off the supply of rifles that can be bought or sold or transferred to people in Colorado going forward. So they're going to have a cutoff date once this goes into place where the future acquisition or sale of these types of items will be banned. The bill targets specific firearms through a list of makes and models. It also targets firearms based on their characteristics. Now, this is similar to what California and other states have done. For example, California did a similar model where through the Roberti Roos list, they first targeted specific firearms and rifles based on their makes and models. So they have a makes and models ban. And then later, California went in and banned specific firearms based on their characteristics. Colorado here is doing the same thing. They have a list of makes and models that they are targeting, and then they also have a characteristics ban. However, Colorado is a little bit more nuanced in their approach because they learned from other state bans like California and New York. Colorado includes in broader language that prevents even compliant options from coming on the market. So they learned from states like California, and they're trying to close some of those holes. And they do this by defining various types of so-called assault weapons. This bill states that semi-automatic rifle that has the capacity to accept a detachable magazine, or that may be readily modified to accept a detachable magazine, and has one or more of the following characteristics. And then they have their characteristics definitions. A pistol grip or thumbhole stock. B, any feature capable of functioning as a protruding grip that can be held by the non-trigger hand. C, a folding, telescoping, or detachable stock that is otherwise foldable or adjustable in any manner that operates to reduce the length, size, or any other dimension, or otherwise enhances the ability to conceal the weapon. D, a muzzle brake. E, a functional grenade launcher or flare launcher. F, a shroud attached to the barrel, or that partially or completely encircles the barrel, allowing the bearer to hold the firearm with a non-trigger hand without being burned, but excluding a slide that encloses the barrel. Or G, a threaded barrel. Now, this language in this bill may be a little bit confusing to you, but really what they're doing here is they're trying to make the definition of a so-called assault weapon and various characteristics that make it a so-called assault weapon. They're trying to make it as broad as possible so that it includes and essentially bans almost every single AR-15, every AK, and similar types of variants with these types of features. So right there, that's your statewide rifle ban. Now, what I don't see in this language is a reference to those items that are already possessed, those rifles that are already in specific, possession of people. Maybe I've missed that, but maybe there's been amendments after the fact, but I don't think that they're addressing already possessed rifles. But this seems to be a bill that is targeting more future sale and future acquisition of rifles, trying to cut off the supply, have a specific date where you can no longer purchase or sell these items, unless you fall under an exempted class like a police officer or military. There are some exemptions, but just for the average person, the average law-abiding person, there's going to be a hard cutoff on the sale of these types of rifles. Now, the slew of bills that are being pushed in Colorado are not just isolated to this rifle ban. There are also movements towards concealed carry restrictions and enhancing those restrictions, and trying to mirror in some ways what New York did and California did with their Bruin Defiance laws that are being challenged right now. Colorado is trying to take an aspect of those laws that were passed and try to do it on their own. The bill states that a person shall not knowingly carry or possess any firearm, whether openly or concealed, and whether loaded or not loaded, in any of the following locations, including their adjacent parking areas. So this restriction is not just expanding specific locations as sensitive locations, but then it also expands upon those, saying that it also includes any adjacent parking lots or surrounding areas. Now, the sensitive locations that it is including and expanding on where you cannot concealed carry even though you have a permit are going to be locations like public parks, a property open to the public where there are gatherings, hospitals and other medical offices, churches, places of worship, professional sporting stadiums, amusement parks, zoos, museums, libraries, any place that serves alcohol, so essentially any restaurant and other places that serve alcohol, courthouses, other government locations, and a lot of other areas that I'm not naming here, but it's pretty expansive about the places that they're going to add as sensitive locations. And for those curious, a violation of this bill would be a misdemeanor punishable by a fine of $250 for the first instance, and then it ratchets up to $1,000 for any subsequent incident. This concealed carry bill in Colorado takes one aspect of what New York did and California did with their Bruin Defiance bills. It takes the expansion of the sensitive locations and tries to adopt that for Colorado. Now, I will say Colorado was not as dumb as trying to adopt all the catch-all provisions that California and New York did. They don't try to include the public locations restrictions where you can't enter into a public building unless you get the permission from the owner, the whole vampire rule. They don't adopt that, and at least you can say maybe they were smart for that. But this bill still, however, is very nasty. It's including very hyper-restrictive concealed carry laws and restrictions, trying to expand sensitive locations and make places and areas off limits even if you have a concealed carry permit. Now, currently, there's a lot of pushback to these two bills. You have awesome organizations in Colorado like the Rocky Mountain Gun Owners Association and then also NAGR who are in Colorado and who are actively trying to fight both of these bills. I highly recommend you go follow them for any updates on various hearings that are taking place, committee hearings or votes that are happening during the legislative process right now. There's a lot of things that are developing. I also know that they were looking for people in Colorado to testify during some of these hearings, so I'd recommend you go follow them. Now, if this passes, I have no doubt that there will be litigation, but we really don't want to get to that point. For example, California and the rifle ban has been struck down multiple times in lower courts, but we're still living with those rifle bans, even though they've been struck down. They're going through appeals process right now, but circuit courts of appeals like the Ninth Circuit are actively protecting those bans. So you don't want to get to that point where you're having to file litigation and lawsuits against the state to try to get these removed. I will note that we have been successful against California and their concealed carry restrictions. CRPA has been awesome. They filed the lawsuit that myself and Reno May are plaintiffs in, and we got the California one halted temporarily, and that's currently going on in the Ninth Circuit. You've had also awesome organizations like GOA who have filed lawsuits in New York, who stopped the New York concealed carry restrictions in the Antonyuk case, and that's making its way through the process. And that actually currently is being reviewed by the Supreme Court or is being sought for review from the Supreme Court. But in reality, you don't want to get to that point because, that is a process. It can be a multi-year process and you don't want to be living with these restrictions. So again, get active, But that's currently what's going on in Colorado. That is their rifle ban that they're trying to push. That is the sensitive location or the concealed carry ban that they're actively pushing in direct defiance of what the Supreme Court said in Bruin. If anything else changes, if I get any more information, I will try to let you guys know. Also, if you like this video and you like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm, and it signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of two-way news. But as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.